time now is 6:02. And first order of business, we actually didn't put the pledge on the agenda, but let's do it anyway. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's see if we have microphones tonight. First order of business is a notice of public hearing in Town of Hudson for public hearing on the proposed budget of the Town of Hudson, St. Clair County. Proposed budget in detail was available for inspection at the clerk's office in the Town Hall from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and was available 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Tuesdays. The summary of the budget was published in the paper, I think for the required amount of time in advance, and it appears as published. So for today's public hearing, the way this will work is if you are a town resident, you can speak for 2 minutes on the proposed budget, and once we go through all of our town residents' public comment, then a non-resident may speak for 2 minutes, and we will repeat that in 1 minute increments after that. Now, keep in mind the topic of this is the proposed budget for the coming year, 2026. So, if you come to the microphone, if you have anything to say, state your name, address, so that the clerk can get it. If you haven't signed in, since this is a public hearing, you do need to sign in. So there is a sign-up sheet at the back. So we'll open it for comment from town residents for the budget. Town residents for the budget. Third time, town residents for the budget. All right, for the non-residents, does anybody want to speak regarding the town budget? Non-residents to speak for the town budget. Going thrice, non-residents for the town budget. Hearing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing? Motion by Rachel, second by Dave. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of closing the public hearing by roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Paulson.
Aye.
Supervisor Blank.
Aye.
Supervisor Lane.
Aye.
Supervisor Barzil.
Aye.
And Chairman Powell.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. So we have our budget adopted. I am pleased to tell everybody that we are presenting a balanced budget for the year. And I would like to thank John, our new treasurer, for putting this together for us and for everybody for attending 2 workshops. Thank you very much for that. Next item of business is our special town board meeting of the electors of the town of Hudson. So since it is immediately following our public hearing on the proposed budget, the electors, which means all of you, get the chance to meet. There are statutory items that can be brought forward at this time. So I guess at this point, if you're an elector, you should go over there and join your elector group.
Mr. Chairman, do we also have to adopt the 2025 tax levy?
That's later.
So technically, the budget has not been adopted yet. That's the next.
Because we need to have the electors weigh in on anything possible first. Okay, for the minutes, Mr. Clerk, we are at 6:07 to start the meeting, special town meeting of the electors in the town of Hudson. So on the agenda, we don't have anything on the agenda. That's not to say that any of you can't bring business that is properly able to be brought before the group as electors. It's basically the town hall meeting where all the citizens get to, have some input. So if you want to say anything, please just raise your hand and I'll recognize you and just be really formal. Yes, sir. Mr. State your name.
Steve Hermson, 813 Harborview Road. I would like to ask if we could set aside some money to upgrade the audio-visual in this room, or at least work on it a little bit to make our meetings a little more presentable to the public when we place it online. I don't know what that's going to cost. I have looked into it a little bit. I threw a dollar amount at Nate, who takes care of the river channel, and I asked him if $10,000 would cover it, and it was a very slow response, and it was no. So if anything, I'd like the board to consider looking at upgrading our audio-visual package that we've got in this room. Thank you.
All right. Related to that topic or any topic, anybody else?
Can I speak as a?
Yeah, you're a lecturer. Yeah.
Rachel Lang, 982 Sherman Lang, I'm sorry. This is all brand new equipment. We used ARPA money to purchase it. We even went as far as to put the special tiles on the ceiling to help with the echo. So I don't know what we could possibly do to make it better.
Sure. One thing I don't know if you're aware, Rachel, or not, but our owl is no longer working.
Oh.
So just for everybody, the OWL is the acronym for this little device here. We had it working initially in, I want to say July, up till July or August. And I had talked to Tim Whiteside, our audiovisual guy, and he had said, this eventually is going to be non-supported anyway, because this was, I think, purchased before some of this new audiovisual. So that's why we haven't been having nice recordings where, the camera shifts to each person. Right now, this is the best I can do, which is with the camera on my laptop. And that's why we've been posting instead of either you or me just talking or the wall. That's why I've been posting Steve Hermson's videos, because at least then it's complete and can show who's talking. I personally very much agree with Steve that we need to replace at least this.
I would agree with that.
And I don't know how much that's going to cost, but I'm guessing that's about half of what the ask is anyway. These devices are not cheap. I think we have, once we get the microphones working, good audio if the microphones are working. The TVs are fine, but we do need to replace this thing.
Yes, I would agree with that. Thank you.
Mr. Hermson, when you were speaking earlier, were you thinking of recommendation from the crowd that the board consider upgrading the audiovisual?
I had spoke with Nate on the River Channel because I thought it would be great if we could be much like the city, the county, school district, and the village. That's what the River Channel does take care of. Now, what Nate told me was that there used to be an agreement with the town and the River Channel and the city, that group. Apparently, a few years ago, that fell apart. I would maybe ask if there's a possibility for you guys to reconnect with those, to get it through that normal channel since it's across the whole area. But in the event that it doesn't, I would agree with Rachel that there probably isn't a lot. Obviously, the screen here doesn't need to be replaced. The microphones, when they're working, they're probably fine, but this room, acoustically, is horrible. I had mentioned to Nate down there that ideally, I think it'd be great if we had, 3 cameras or probably 4. We'd probably do this room perfect. You'd have one pointing at the podium here, and then 3 for the board members, and go that route. But, and I don't know if we can do that with the current setup that we've got. But if there's a replacement for that owl, it probably would be a cheaper way to go.
Right, right.
But
So,
what that is-
the reason I asked is one of the statutory items is that electors can request the board to make an appropriation of money. That is one of the items in statute for elected meetings. So you are asking the board to make some expenditure to upgrade the audio visual.
I am.
Okay, very good. Just wanted that clear.
Okay.
Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to say for the town meeting? Otherwise, we're going to roll into the next order of business. I'll say it 2 more times. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say at the meeting of the electors? 3rd time. Anybody have anything else they would like to say at the meeting of the electors? Hearing none, do we have a motion from somebody in the electors to adjourn the special town meeting of the electors?
So move.
Motion by Mr. Hermson. Is there a second from the electors?
I'll second.
Second by Susan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning the special town meeting of the electors signify by saying aye. Aye. All right. Opposed? All right. We are now closed with respect to the special town board meeting of the electors. All right. Now we have a couple of other hearings. Next on the agenda then is the notice of special town board meeting of the town of Hudson. And Mr. Clerk, for the purposes of the record, it's 6:15. We'll call the special town board meeting, town of Hudson, to order. On the agenda, action to adopt the 2026 budget. Call that one to order first. Mr. Treasurer, before we adopt, is there anything further you'd like to say regarding the budget?
No, actually, it's pretty much set. We have just a few minor changes before we post this to the public, so everything is set.
And have you had, both you and the clerk, have you had anybody ask to see the budget?
I have not.
Well, I think we can post the summary again online, just so people will have it. I want people to understand what it is we are going to spend our money on. I do have a question of you, Mr. Treasurer. There's been a request from the electors to appropriate some money for an upgrade of the sound system. That's something that we did not specifically put in as a line item to this budget. I know that probably the cheapest option is just at this point to replace the owl with a similar device, but we're going to need that. How much will it screw up everything if we have $5,000, tucked away to meeting expense?
I mean, we should be okay if we're going to just work on replacing the owl. And I don't know who would do that. The clerk would be set to go, acquire quotes or something. We can find out how much that would be.
I think it'll be under our limit for the bids, but we can also look at potentially contracting too. I don't know if Steve Nurse just hired a videotaping or if he enjoys it or what, but it would be nice to have our own equipment that can do it and not rely on anybody outside, in my opinion. And I don't know why this thing quit working either. It was like one day it just quit. So,
I think we should shop around, see what's out there.
yeah, and I think Tim might say we'd probably say, hey, what do you recommend?
Yeah.
Because that's his business. So in other words, do you think we need to add a separate line item or play with the numbers a little bit here, John, or can we just proceed knowing that we're going to spend $5,000-ish more maybe up to 10,000-ish more.
No, I think we'd be fine just using, we've got line items for that particular stuff, so it's just a matter of adding 5,000 to that. We've got some room there to do that.
Okay. So as treasurer, what's your recommendation for the budget?
I think we leave it as is and just try to move some funds around to make the 5,000 fit in there.
All right, so you're recommending approval of the budget?
Yes.
All right. Any other discussion from the board members regarding the budget? You're looking at me, Dave, maybe you want to make a motion?
No, I'm saying,
Maybe we should explain attorney's fees
We can do that.
this year.
Yeah, so we did add $100,000 to attorney's fees this year on top of our normal attorney fee budget. And we did that because we have a number of issues, including a potential challenge to annexation, including potential challenge with Excel. And so for those reasons, we decided to increase our legal budget because it was it could potentially be a large amount. And if we don't use it, let's say we're successful in other ways, then we're going to be too good by about $100,000. So that would be really nice. Anything else, John, you can think of maybe that we need to explain to the public? I just really want this to be the opportunity to, we'll have this budget data available. I hope to post it through our clerk so that it is available.
Right. I mean, obviously, the 100,000 in legal is the biggest increase number we have in there. So when we talk about spending 5,000 on the hour, I would easily see adjusting that down by the 5,000. It's not going to impact anything because the 100,000 is clearly a very conservative estimate of if we had to go full force in litigation, but I don't foresee that happening. So.
Better be prepared than not, though, right?
Yes.
All right, do we have any motion to adopt the budget?
Sure, I would make the motion to adopt the 2026 budget.
Budget as presented by this document dated 11/13/25.
As presented.
You okay with that amendment or clarification? All right. Any further discussion on adopting the budget as proposed from 11/13/25? Any further discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote on approving the budget.
Supervisor Foster.
Aye.
Supervisor Blank.
Aye.
Supervisor Lang.
Aye.
Supervisor Bartlett.
aye.
Chairman Polley.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Now the budget is adopted. Agenda item number 2, action to be taken to adopt the 2025 tax levy payable in 2026. Mr. Treasurer, any comments on that?
Again, we basically had a slight increase in our equalized value, so assuming we can get that levy increase, you're seeing that we'll go from 1.3 million to 1.308. So that's the number that we're going towards for our levy.
All right. Any questions of the treasurer or members? Great. I think we need something.
I'll move to adopt the 2025 tax levy payable for 2026
As presented.
as presented.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Dan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote to approve the 2025 tax levy payable in 2026.
Supervisor Foster.
Aye.
Supervisor Blank.
Aye.
Supervisor Lang.
Aye.
Supervisor Barzel.
Aye.
Chairman Pollak.
Aye. All right, now we have our tax levy set. Do we have a motion to close the special town board meeting for the town of Hudson?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second by Barzel. He beat you there, Susan, sorry. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, voice vote. Aye.
Aye.
Same sign, nay. 5-0 to close meeting. It is now 6:24 p.m. We're going to call a second public hearing to order because it is immediately following the special town board meeting. A public hearing on zoning change for the Youth-Oriented Recreational District will be held. The agenda is public hearing on the zoning change for prohibited uses for the Youth-Oriented Recreational District. And that is where we will start. I do have a proposed language copy with me. I believe that this was put on the screen at the last meeting. I can do it again tonight if you'd like. If anybody wants to read along, just give me a moment.
There are some printed as well.
Oh, are there some printed up front? Oh, then I would just say if you want one, please grab one for safe technology. Something to go well. So I'll just quickly read it. Proposed changes to ordinance 105-142. Add a new section with proper number and lettering. Prohibited uses. The town, in order to protect the safety, health, and morals of the participants and the youth-oriented sports district, find the following uses incompatible with the purposes of youth athletic fields and are expressly prohibited in this zone. Refuse and garbage facilities, recycling centers, parentheses, both ordinary recycling and garbage temporary storage, and on the athletic fields are allowed for such regular service pickup, close parentheses. Incinerators, waste or sewage treatment and water treatment facilities or transfer stations. Electrical substations, power generating facilities, or any electrical utility operations, including solar farms / generation, adult bookstores or adult entertainment businesses, cannabis, THC or CBD production, retail manufacture, hemp or cannabis farms, head shops or similar enterprises involving cannabis, THC or CBD, off-sale liquor stores, retail or warehouses, materials yards, material storage facilities or open-air warehouses, tobacco retailers or any business involved in the sale or business of tobacco distribution, mini storage and storage rental businesses, massage parlors, and the board reserves the right to declare any other proposed use incompatible with youth athletic fields in order to protect the health, safety, health, and morals of the participants in the youth-oriented sports district. So that is the ordinance proposed under consideration. Same rules will apply to town residents. 2 minutes to speak. Please state your name. Make sure you're signed in. Then non-residents will give them a chance to speak for 2 minutes, and then the process will repeat, except for it'll be 1 minute. And if you want an extension of time, given the number of people here, just ask the chair and we'll consider it. So are there any town residents that would like to speak to the proposed ordinance?
Dave O'Brien, 762 Martin Avenue, also president of Hudson Boosters. As the proposed ordinance change is currently written, I and Hudson Boosters propose the change for a couple of reasons. First of all, it does attempt to prohibit retail or warehouses, and the retail sales we would need would be concession sales within that district. The other two items are probably, I'm looking for a definition, but since they were not defined in the ordinances. Waste or sewage treatment, since there is no city sewer and water hookup, all the sewer treatment has to be treated, well in the septic system. So just want to make sure that waste and sewage treatment doesn't mean no well, no septic system on site. Additionally, for material storage facilities, we will have primary material that we need to store on site to maintain the fields. So those are items that we would need to address. And then looking at it, and not that we disagree with the intent that we're looking at and trying to go, but looking at more of the consistency of how the existing town ordinances addresses similar issues. For example, for prohibited uses, if you were to go to 105-12 Commercial District B, they address prohibited uses in the following. The following uses are permitted in the commercial district. Any use not listed as permitted in the shall be determined to be prohibited use. So that would be a way of addressing prohibited uses if they're not listed. The other area I would look at would actually be how the town should actually address adult establishments. Article 10 is 105-53 through 105-57. And that really says like where things can go and where they can't go. For example, we're talking about adult entertainment systems there, but the adult establishments that are 105-53, no adult establishment shall be located within any zone district other than commercial light industrial. So by that definition, it's already prohibited. So if we were to look at taking that type of approach with CBD and possibly the power substation, I think it would be more consistent with the way the current town ordinances work. For example, we could prohibit CBD sale in that district, yet we could permit, CBD sales off of somebody's home business back in the driveway right next to us. But if we were to address it, it's a similar fashion that we address adult entertainment facilities, it would take care of the entire township, not just a particular district.
Any other town residents would like to speak regarding the ordinance? I'm not sure whose feedback is.
Steve Herbson, 813 Harvard Road Road. I too would like to speak in opposition to this ordinance change. And the reason being is that I guess I don't fully understand how far that youth-oriented district goes, this overlay. I'm assuming it goes all the way from Badlands Road clear up to 12 east. Now, I agree with a number of the restrictions that you put in the ordinance here, but I'm very concerned with, I know that it looks to me like you're trying to single out the Power XL's attempt to upgrade the power line going through there. And I would like to maybe have the board think a little farther through this, that XL has a easement through that area right now with the current power line. They have shown the public their proposal to put a substation in to the north of where the current entrance is, what we'll call the, I'll call it Lot 1A, or the north lot. I can't even think of the name, Walshman, the north to his lot. And since Excel has already put that proposal out there, and it's an upgrade to our grid, I would think that the board would be a little hesitant to put our grid at a lower status than the ball field. So I would suggest that we don't do this. Don't try to stop Excel if they're going to do this. I don't know how much harm it can do to the Boosters ball field, but I think the grid is pretty important. And being one that has gone through a time with an outage in the winter and didn't have any heat for a number of hours, I don't want to go through that again. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Any other town residents want to speak to the proposal? Any other town residents?
Greg White, 831 Kelly Road. I also oppose the ordinance because it does contradict our existing ordinance. I think we're opening ourselves to possible future problems as we would create future zones. And we may, somebody that wants to establish in that zone would want to ask for exceptions to not have certain items be established in that zone as well. I think our ordinances are working the way they are today. But I'll talk out of both sides of my mouth. If you are going to go ahead with the ordinance, at the last board meeting, I thought you had said that fireworks would be exempt as well. And I don't see fireworks on the list tonight, so thank you.
Any other town residents like to speak at the public hearing? Any other town residents would like to speak at the public hearing? Any other town residents would like to speak at the public hearing? Last call. All right, non-residents, would you like to speak to the proposed ordinance?
Hello, my name is Thomas Scanlon. I'm a local business owner. I've had my business in either the city of Hudson or the town of Hudson for the last 20 years. I do share the board's concerns with the power station. I'm opposed to that, so I'm on board with that. But I would like some clarification when it comes to some of the language. It talks about material yards, material storage, and also is my property on the corner of 12 and 12 within the youth district. I don't know where the map is or if it could be a moot point if I'm not there. But if I am within that, I guess I'd like some clarification on that because I feel like for my business I would need some potential outdoor storage and I don't want any violation to run my daily operations. So those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other non-residents like to speak about the proposed change ordinance? Any other non-residents like to speak about the proposed change of the ordinance? Last call. Any other non-residents like to speak to the proposed change of ordinance? All right, we'll go back to town residents. Would you like an additional minute to speak to the ordinance? Any town residents? Going once. Any town residents would like to speak for another minute regarding the proposed ordinance? Final call. Any town residents would like to speak for another minute regarding the town's proposed ordinances? Hearing none, that section will be closed. Any non-residents would like to speak for an additional minute? This is your opportunity. Second opportunity. Any non-residents would like to speak to the proposed ordinance for another minute? And final call. Any non-residents would like to speak to the ordinance for an additional minute? Hearing none, that closes the public hearing section. Well, we should have a motion to move to close the public hearing. There we go. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Susan. Voice vote. Now let's do roll call.
Supervisor Washington?
Aye.
Supervisor White?
Aye.
Supervisor Lang?
Aye.
Supervisor Barzo?
Aye.
Chairman Pollak?
Aye. All right, second part of the hearing, discussion action on amending zoning for the youth-oriented recreational district. Thank you all for your comments. I just, we don't make that be the back and forth time, but I do want to address some of the concerns. The power lines for Excel have nothing to do with this ordinance. Just so you know, power lines are a separate animal because they do have a right-of-way. There's a whole statutory section of power lines, specifically high-power power lines. We're not going to be able to dictate to Excel anything. okay, realistically. So this has nothing to do with the power lines themselves. What this does do, I think, is create a list of uses that are in fact incompatible with what we want next to youth sports. And I think that, yes, the Excel station is one of them. But as we've learned even from the creation of this district, we can, from time to time, change our ordinances and create new districts. So this new district was a new animal. And so it makes sense to firm that up to me while it's relatively new in our memory. And we haven't even published the new maps yet, which, Mr. Clerk, that will be something that we have to do to get new maps for our zoning and make sure that we, I think there's only 3 properties that are in the youth sports district, and we should contact those people to make sure that they get notice that they're in it, just as an aside. But because there's only 3 areas that we have set aside for youth, I think that was my intent in creating this ordinance, because even though our code may generally say these are not allowed unless it's specifically put forward, we're capturing a moment in time that we know there's going to be a ball field going in. We know these uses are what we don't want next to a ball field. And I think that's an appropriate time for us to kind of say as a quasi-legislative body that we don't want that in our district, this newly created district. I think over time, as the comp plan shows, there are planned changes to some of these, what is now ag res. And if we're changing an ordinance at that point in time, we can also change the overlay. But I think, and I don't want to get into too much of a legal discussion about what we discussed in private session. There's legal reasons why certain things are done this way. I guess I ask the board members to trust me on this, that this gives us a chance to keep the potential for the youth sports without having a use that we don't want next to it. Because if we do nothing and rely on our existing code, I can guarantee you there will be an Excel station next to this, okay? So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm open to a change, for example. Again, I'm trying to address everybody's comments. I'm fine striking the entire materials yards, material storage facilities or open air warehouses. If that is too broad of a concern, they can strike it. That, I think, also alleviates the boosters' concerns that we're going to have things out in the open, that we are going to need for our property. The retail this does not contain a prohibition on retail. So part of statutory drafting is when you hit the next colon, that talks about that phrase. So the only retail manufacturer that retail spots in this is as it refers to cannabis or CBD, and for off-sale liquor retail. Now the intention here was not to create something that would prohibit a restaurant that is on sale, potentially, so that moms and dads, might be able to go across the street. That is not the intent. It says off-sale liquor. So again, there's no general prohibition of retail for the boosters. So for example, you would be allowed to sell pop, chips, popcorn, and those things. Again, only as it relates to those 2 specific things does this even mention retail. It's only related to those 2. I think that, again, I'm just trying to go off my memory for what was just said, but those, at least my comments on those things. But I mean, I'm not married to this language. I took a crack at some pretty obvious things I thought that we didn't want next to. But I'm fine with striking the materials yards, material storage facilities, or open warehouses. If that would help with the commercial concerns.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. You have the floor.
To address Mr. Urban's concern about the grid, I completely agree with him on that. But I think that the intention here isn't that we are trying to shut down the Excel project, but are trying to make some suggestions to them offline. Both citizens have, independently as I have, and I think that at some point we should discuss. What we're really trying to do is get them to put that substation someplace else. We absolutely need the substation.
I couldn't agree with you more, Mr. Morris.
And the other thing is that if you've noticed the revised Excel proposal, they've taken into account a lot of the input that was given on where the power lines run, and have come up with a different proposal that keeps those power lines mostly out of people's backyards. Right? They have a meeting on Thursday to go over that, and they're open on. So I think leaving the power generation, the electrical substation in here is a good way forward in case we are not successful in getting them to push that someplace else. And conversely, it gives us some ability to push a little bit harder to get them to put it someplace else, the substation specifically.
You and I see eye to eye. Any other comments?
I'm sorry if I may, another comment. Several people have indicated that they thought that the way this was worded, that there was a prohibition on retail stores, distribution facilities. So perhaps we could just work on trying to clarify that language before we approve this, so that it's very clear which type of retail and distribution facilities we are trying to prohibit, which is maybe obvious to us, but tobacco, liquor, cannabis products, that's all what we're trying to prohibit, not concessions and not other types of facilities, not other types of retail facilities. So, but several people have mentioned that it's confusing language, so we should clarify that. And I do understand that there's a legal way that it's worded in a way that it would be interpreted, but I think we could clean it up. Unfortunately, I don't know how to do that on the fly.
Well, I think one of the ways we could do it on the fly is we could number these, right? So instead of saying refuse and garbage facilities, semicolon, we could say 1, refuse and garbage facilities, semicolon, 2, recycling centers, and that would break up this giant paragraph. And then it would be clear that when it says retail, it's only referring to tobacco. That's probably the easiest way to clean it up. And like I said, I'm okay with striking materials, yards, materials, storage facilities, or open warehouses entirely from that. My intent was just not creating an eyesore, but it's really hard to figure out language that's clear on that. So I'm fine with just withdrawing that whole section. Susan, Rachel, Dan?
Yeah, so aren't there a couple homes in this zoning district?
I don't think so.
Yes. Yeah, there are homes.
Okay, so massage parlors, I can see not having actual massage parlors, but what if there's a massage therapist who wants to have a home business and lives in this zone? Does that mean they're not going to be able to practice their massage therapy?
Well, for a home-based business, assuming the underlying zoning is ag res, they would have to apply anyway for a small business exception. I personally received complaints from massage parlors in our town.
Well, I'm not talking about parlors.
No, I know.
I'm talking about just one massage therapist, who's certified or whatever they get, doing it out of their home. Because I do know people that do that.
Yeah, I would think that, again, it's about reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions here. And I would think that even a home-based business with a massage parlor next to, if they're engaged in, chiropractic, that's a different story. But if it's truly for massages, then, I think that probably shouldn't be allowed next to the ball field. That's just my opinion.
mean, it wouldn't even have to say parlor. When I think of a massage parlor, I think of Rotary Drive up there. You know, an actual business with more than one massage therapist, because there are a lot of people that need a massage therapy. It's a valuable tool, you know,
Sure.
for a lot of people. So I don't understand how that hurts, especially if, you know, the signage is kept to one and they wouldn't have to, I mean, it could be Susie's massage. Or, I guess I think we should right. That's my opinion. I think we should be allowed for our home businesses.
Yeah, the comments that I would like to make are more associated with just a bigger picture, and I think they address both some questions that you have, Supervisor Rachel Lang, as well as Mr. Scanlon's, and that is that I think the way, I think it's important that we look at this youth recreational district in the correct way, because the district in itself does not drive the underlying zoning. What it does, it's an overlay that permits a special exception. So, for example, you know, we have within the area that this sports district addresses, there is the ag-res, there's commercial in there also, and those are really the primary zoning. Anything related to the youth-oriented activity is a special exception. So, being that's the case, for example, the substation that we're talking about is not subject to the special exception zoning unless they actually apply for a youth district special exception, which I don't think that they're going to ask for. And so therefore, it's subject to whatever zoning would apply, you know, for either a commercial area or ag-res or whatever. And that would be true, you know, for example, Mr. Scanlon's business or whatever. It's subject to not the rules of the youth-oriented district, but to the underlying zoning. So I think that, you know, the approach that this is taking right here, to me, doesn't make sense, and I don't think it's getting us to where we want to go, at least where, you know, some of us want to go with this. So, I don't think it's the right kind of ordinance to adopt.
Do you, Mr. Foster, do you have any other ideas on how perhaps we could have some other authority to prevent what we're trying to prevent, which is these uses?
Well, I think that we have in our ordinances already a number of these type of activities are already prohibited, and so that's in the underlying zoning, and so that would address that. It may not address everything because, you know, we're talking about, you know, some of the other things you're talking about here in terms of electrical utility operations, etc. We haven't really addressed that, no. And I don't really have necessarily an idea on how to do that. If the Public Service Commission does, you know, approve that sort of thing, I do think that we should use persuasion, you know, to try to have them move it if we think that, you know, it's not in the right spot. But that maybe, because it is north of the Walshman property, might actually be the best spot in the area.
One of the points that you brought up, Mr. O'Brien, was you were worried about the waste or sewage treatment. That has nothing to do with your own septic system. Okay, so I want to clear that up. I do believe some of this, we need to figure out a way to put this in there for the water treatment facilities, the transfer stations, electrical substations, and especially solar farms and the generation for the solar. I mean, this is a big problem right now in St. Croix County, and they're looking at fighting a big fight. So anything that we can possibly do to prevent a problem like this, I think we're setting our township up in a better spot.
Yeah, to address that, I think that, again, kind of going back to, the construction in general, we do have the ability, to approve a special exception, that's consistent with, what's intended. And so if somebody were to say, well, we're going to do a ball field of some sort or whatever, but it's dominated by a waste treatment plant or some power generating activities or whatever, we would say that that's not really youth-oriented activity, sport activity, or recreational activity. So we just wouldn't give a special exception.
Well, I guess my concern with that is, given that there are certain public utilities, there's limited abilities to kind of, as Mr. Barzal stated, play with a little hardball. This is one of the ways. If we decide not to do this, our existing zoning will not prohibit a substation, transfer station, sewage treatment plant, whatever, right next to ball fields. Now, doing it this way, and why I proposed it this way, is because when you have a limited number of properties, it is not a moratorium. You're only saying that these particular areas are reserved for youth sports, and therefore they're sort of cherished, okay? And this is a community asset to be able to have maybe a cluster of ball fields someday. Now, whether it gets developed that way or not, we don't know. But we've created this overlay district to include a very few number of properties, and therefore it's not a moratorium. We cannot have a moratorium on public utility, water, whatever, okay, because they're governed by different. This is the only way I can think of is to have it where it's a limited use. So there's, the PSC and others that might decide this would say, no, there's only 3 places you can build youth athletic fields for the town, and this is not a good spot to put your power station. I personally suggested alternative locations that are commercially for sale for them. We will continue to engage in that, and I know that many have. That's why I've been saying in meetings, please fill out the Excel Energy form, right? But, this is the only way that I can think of with my limited legal experience of, a few years that gets us to be able to play hardball. I still want the better approach is dialogue. Let's not take one of our prime spots, and see if we can work with an alternative location. So, again, that's why I genuinely asked Mr. Fosterling if you can think of something different.
Well, one possibility would be some sort of number of feet or something like that. So you say, within 500 feet of any approved, recreational facility, that there can't be X, and it might be this list of things or whatever. So that says that, we've already approved now the special exception for the recreational facility, and then that now has a reverberating effect on the stuff that surrounds it. But I'm not sure if we can do that or not, but I think that that's something to explore.
All right, any further discussion? I mean, this is a good time for us to, throw out ideas. I mean, I think if we did like a linear, first of all, we'd have to have it figured out that would be supported by data, but if we do it all, then there's only 3 properties, it's uniform across all 3. That's, to me, the simpler solution, and I think a reviewing agency or court would also look at that. Yes, Mr. O'Brien?
One question or possible solution. So looking at the way the adult storage was handled, it gave specifically where it couldn't be, but it also gave where it could be. For example, if we were to use that template and say 1,000 feet either side of I-94 interstate highway, if that would encompass some of those alternate areas, it wouldn't just tell them what they couldn't be, but it could give them it would allow us to push them where they should be. I don't know if that's a possible solution or not.
We just have to structure it so it's not a moratorium. And currently, since the vast majority of our land in this town is ag res, it's an effective moratorium. And that's why I'm suggesting we change this with the 3 properties that we've identified when we created this district. Because then it's directly related to the ball field use. It's pretty clear these are incompatible. Nobody's going to argue that these things are not compatible. That's pretty obvious, right? Especially if you take out the materials units. I guess I would move, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we strike materials yards, material storage facilities, or open air warehouses from this proposed ordinance, and that we renumber these by number. So where it says refuse and garbage facilities, semicolon, that'll be prefaced by the number 1. Recycling centers would be prefaced by the number 2, and so on. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion on the motion. And we can keep making motions.
I would like in that same motion, where it says off-sale liquor stores, instead of saying retail or warehouses, more that to say retail, liquor, or liquor warehouses, to make it clear that this is not affecting retail stores. So off-sale liquor stores, retail liquor stores, and/or liquor warehouses.
I'm not going to accept the amendment only for one reason. I think we need to compartmentalize these one at a time, so I guess let's make that be a second motion, or third. That's why I'm not accepting that amendment. Any further discussion on the motion as seconded?
Yeah, I just, as you said, I'm already uncomfortable, with, kind of just the general approach of this. And whatever changes we make, that just means that we have to have a hearing based upon, those that revised wording. So that just calls us back to another hearing. And I don't know if, for example, if Mr. Waldschmidt would have been here, if he would have thought this would apply to his business. And I would say no, it doesn't, because he's not he didn't apply for a special exception under the Youth-Oriented Recreational District, and so he doesn't. So this would apply to him, and it did. I'm sure you have concerns about material yards, material storage facilities, etc. That said, now the property just north of him again, I don't, to me, I mean, if we, whatever we make adjustments on here and stuff like that, I mean, first of all, it will require another hearing. The question is, do we want to go through another hearing if this approach itself is effective? And that's my concern.
So I think we created a new youth sports district.
Yes.
So it is, we've been calling it an overlay because we didn't change the underlying zoning. But it is a new geographically bounded district, so we can put additional considerations, restrictions, etc. And it's not just for those who apply for a special exception permit. We certainly can make that geographical, you know, there's no legal prohibition on us doing that. We did create a new district.
Yeah, I think that it's an exception district, and because it's not changing, you know, the underlying zoning.
But I think this will survive even if we change the underlying zone. So let's take the hypothetical. We've got a currently zoned ag-res property. Say that our comp plan calls for one of the properties in the district to become commercial down the road. And we change that to underlying zoning to commercial. The overlay will still survive just as much as with any of the prohibitions we put in that list.
It will still support the overlay of what?
Of youth-oriented sports district would survive because we created another layer. And within that layer, we can put restrictions. I'm certain of that.
You know, part of the thing is right now, in an area that's zoned residential, a person does not have to apply for a special exception to build a house. They can just build a house there. They have to get a permit and so forth. And same with commercial, you know, unless something's prohibited, they can build, you know, or put in that occupancy, you know, that business occupancy in that area, and, you know, we can't prohibit it. But the overlay district is a special exception district, and the youth-oriented one, so I don't think it's in the same category. And so that's why it hasn't changed the underlying zoning. The underlying zoning still stands. It can be changed, but you know, the underlying zoning in itself still stands. And by the way, that is consistent, you know, with our comprehensive plan. That whole area there would be essentially commercial, you know, coming up from you know, exit 4 up to 12, you know, going around there. That's, you know, that's basically a commercial area. Ultimately, you know, that's the plan, with special exception for you know, these recreational districts.
But and I think I think you raised something that is another reason why we need this, though, is because, let's say 10 years down the road, when the comp plan is, and they've built their ball field, and we change it to commercial, if we don't put the restrictions in place that we are thinking of today, then there will be a CBD store next to the ball field. There will be some of these undesirable uses. So I'm saying, why not, while we've got it hot on our minds, let's tell the public, the people now, what we don't want to see next to a youth-oriented ball field. I think you make my point, Mr. Foster, is that without it, in 10 years from now, these things very likely will be.
I don't disagree with that, but I don't think that using 105.14.2 will get us there, because this is essentially addressing that, which is within, you know, within whatever has been granted a special exception. So I think that we would have to have some sort of distance, you know, from this or something like that, that would include those prohibitions.
Well, if we did a distance, are we doing the same thing? We're saying now that we're using the same geographical boundaries, but now we're doing a distance versus within the zone itself. It's still a bounded geographical area. And that would be okay, but putting the restrictions directly in is not okay by that logic, and I don't see the connect there. I think what the purpose is in these 3 places, we don't want to see X. And that, I think, is completely allowed with the new zoning district that we created, because it is a new district. We've been talking it as an overlay because the underlying uses we did not change. That's not, what we're doing is saying, these will not be uses under any circumstances. So that's why we noticed this as a public hearing, so that we could give notice that, look, these things might change for those affected. Now, these are all currently not allowed, right? So we're not taking away anything right now. But I feel if we don't do it now, then when the comp plan gets changed and the whole area isn't built up, we will see some of these. And then we're looking like we're, spot zoning for prohibitions. We should do it now at that point. Any other discussion?
Again, I would just say that under, again, 105.14.2, it says the Youth-Oriented Recreational District is created to establish areas for more active recreation which may require equipment and is open to the public with or without entry or activity fees. This may include, but is not limited to, game courts, covered or uncovered hockey rinks, golf facilities, ball fields, and similar uses. So, I just think that, right now, we've got next door to this thing, we've got a person who's going to start a business there that makes cabinets. It's not youth-oriented, it doesn't fit into this category. How can that happen? It happens because of the fact that it's subject, the primary zoning is not the recreational district, but the underlying zoning. And therefore, he can move ahead with his plans to do that. And if he can do that, then so can others, who don't necessarily fit into the qualifications of this recreational district. So therefore, what we're doing is we're thinking that we're putting protection, towards the area in terms of what kind of things go in there, and we missed the target. We basically hemmed ourselves in to only that area, which is given a special exception, I believe.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Let's do a roll call vote on the motion.
Restate your motion just one more time.
Yes, I'll restate it one more time. From the proposed, I'm not saying we adopt the ordinance, I'm saying from the proposed ordinance in front of us, we strike the words materials yards, material storage facilities, or open air warehouses, semicolon. And we renumber these after each semicolon, starting with the number 1 paren, refuse and garbage facilities, colon. And then the number 2 would go in front of recycling centers, and so on, so numbered after each colon. Okay? That's my motion.
Supervisor Watson?
No.
Supervisor Blank?
Yes.
Supervisor Blank?
Aye.
Supervisor Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Pollak?
Aye. Susan, you had another motion related to this, and so what I'm trying to do is let's come up with the language as precise as possible, you know, one by one, subject by subject, so it doesn't get too confusing. And so yours was related to liquor. So if you want to take a minute to kind of say how you'd like it worded, and if we make changes, we might have to have another quick public hearing, but this one didn't take too long, so I don't know that it would be terribly inconvenient.
It has to be posted.
It has to be posted in a certain amount of time, but, you know.
Chairman, just a point of clarification. It says proposed change to 105, 142. It's actually 104.2. So just
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to propose that we have another item to prohibit the sale and storage of fireworks. I think that we did that last time we discussed this and it just got lost, so I'm sure we got it. Is that my motion?
Would you mind if I put it after massage parlors?
I don't care where it goes.
Fireworks, retail, storage? What do you want to say?
Retail fireworks and store, what did I say? I thought I said it. Retail fireworks for sure, and storage, fireworks storage.
I'll second your motion.
Did you say firearms?
I did not.
Oh,
So your motion is after massage parlors, the next number in line, retail fireworks and fireworks storage.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. I will second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? I'll abstain. Motion carries 4-0 with one abstaining. Any other changes to this draft?
Yes. After the THC or CBD, where it says off-sale liquor stores, I propose off-sale liquor stores, comma, and or liquor retail and or liquor warehouses.
Do you want to say off-sale liquor stores, comma,
Retail liquor or liquor warehouses.
all right. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a question. When you say retail liquor, that would effectively prohibit a restaurant.
Good point.
But I don't think we want to do that.
No. Don't know that we have any liquor licenses available right now, but I would not want to keep a restaurant from coming in if there was a liquor license available.
I'm just trying to help speed this along here, Susan. What I'm thinking is if you would amend your motion to say off-sale liquor stores, comma, strike the word retail altogether, and then say, and liquor warehouses.
Yeah, we could say or liquor warehouses.
Then strike the word
And strike
retail.
the word retail.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who seconded it?
I did.
Do you accept that amendment?
Yes.
All right. for purposes of discussion, then does everybody understand that we're not trying to prohibit a restaurant here? We're just trying to prohibit off-sale liquor stores and liquor warehouses. Right? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion as amended, signify by saying aye. Aye. One more abstention, Dan?
No, I'd say aye with it. You know, I mean, as far as if you're going to change it, I'll go with the changes.
All right, motion carries 5-0. Any other changes to the proposed language? Mr. O'Brien, does this alleviate all of your concerns?
Sure, just clarify the septic, well, septic system would be fine.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, would you allow another comment?
Yes.
I'm concerned, I should say, I'm interested in hearing more on what the board's concern is with, for instance, a warehouse that happens to be a beer distributor, let's say, in that district, or for instance, XL has their new building over on Old 35, which is an electrical utility operation there. What's the concern? Why would you want to avoid that? Thinking that's going to somehow hurt a youth-oriented district. Warehouses, but you did have in here, I thought you were trying to put back in the storage. Wasn't there a storage facility or something in here?
Materials, we already struck material yards. Material
Yeah,
storage.
okay, so you've struck that, so that's why I'm saying, well, a beer distributor is not allowed, but storage facility is. I don't see the difference there. Just something to consider.
I think the big thing with having been a little bit in the alcohol industry, there's a lot of traffic that is generated by distribution warehouses. Like we're talking big trucks, going in and out. I think that's more of the concern there.
Okay.
It's pretty constant, for.
Okay. All right.
I think that was the rationale. I really put it in there. I'm not married to it. I mean, I see your point.
And my concern with fireworks storage warehouses would just be from a fire safety standpoint, being close to where a bunch of children are.
Right. Yes, sir.
With the warehouse, the liquor warehouse, with the distribution that we're talking about, does that just mean the storage warehouse, or if there was a distillery or a brewery?
That would not, it doesn't say production. So that if you have a distillery or brewery that is planning to do on sale, that's fine.
They usually do on and off.
That is true. So, okay, it used to be we had, the Class B license, right? Which meant that, there was a big difference. Now the producers have all got the right to sell from their place with their production permits now. That's the big difference. This would prohibit certainly the liquor store, which still is required to get the required permit for off-sale sales. Nothing in this, the way I read it, would prohibit that. Just for that clarification. Because if we said liquor manufacturers, that would be a different story, but we're not saying that. So if there wants to be a restaurant, brewery that pops up next to the ball field for mom and dad to go to, I don't think this prohibits it. If you want to prohibit it, throw in your own language, but the way that if it's off-sale liquor and liquor storage, that's not a production facility for the production of alcohol. Those are two different things in my book. So I'll go on record as saying that's my interpretation of it. I was going to ask you a question anyway, just to weigh in, because I know you are interested. How about you other two gentlemen? With these changes, does this make sense to you, what we're doing?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right, well, I'm gonna need to plug in the computer soon. Any other motions related to this? All right, I'll make one final motion. I move that we get this renumbered with the corrected changes tonight and notice for another public hearing within the time frame for possible adoption. Well, I don't even know, I don't think we need a motion for that, actually. That would be the next step, because we have made changes at a public hearing. So therefore, I think we have to, do you guys want a motion for that? All right, so I'll just put it on the agenda. I'll direct the clerk to get the final version published with enough notice for a public hearing. That, I think, completes our agenda for the evening. Do we have a motion to adjourn, or is there anything else extremely pressing?
Just, maybe can I go back to this?
Yes, we can.
So just to be clear, the next version of it will identify whether this comes under subsection F, and then, its various parts, or where it comes within 1.2. So I think we need to know that, because that makes a difference.
Okay, so yes, my intent was to have this go into the subsection that was the newly created youth sports. So we will,
I'm saying that under 14.2, there's also A, B, C, D, E, F, and is it under F?
Correct.
Or where is it?
all right, just to clean it up and to make the record clear, I move that this will appear, if it's passed, that the draft will be section F, prohibited uses, under 105-14.2. Is there a second? All right, any further discussion? Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Foster. All those in favor, hearing no discussion? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so that will be hopefully the last iteration of this, but I'm glad we hashed it out. I thank everybody for coming, for your input too, very appreciated. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn? Second. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned at 7:26.